There is a thin divide between what is perceived as spiritual and paranormal, for they are forever intertwined throughout time. Traveling within the history of the world, we can find examples of spirituality that involves everything from magic, spirits, gods and goddesses, and seers or people said to be able to speak to the dead. We all have our own belief systems. We all have our own truths. So let us possibly bend those truths a bit with some insights and perspectives that may be a bit different than yours, or even give yourself validation for what you see as true. Come sit with myself and the best of the best in research, teaching, discovery, and practitioners of the day. My name is Bear Medicine Walker, and I welcome you to Spiritually Paranormal.
What? Every single time I get this dialogue going in my head, and as soon as that ends and I see your face, then I lose every bit of it. Hey everyone.
Yeah, welcome to another Tuesday. I have tea. Actually, you should probably have it because it sounds like you're getting a sore throat again. Okay, gotcha. All right. Hi, everybody. We're back to another wonderful Wednesday, and we're going to hit the hot topic today of reincarnation, possibilities, thoughts, cases, all that kind of stuff. However, before we get going, and hi, Cindy Pinkham and Margaret and Shelby and whoever else is coming in, hello. But we're going to first talk about this.
Yes. So finally today, this is live on Amazon. Oh, I'm getting feedback.
Uh-oh.
I don't know why I'm getting the feedback. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. Now you just switched to radio version.
Okay.
There you are.
Oh, sorry. Back to this. So I took a break from writing Leo and Gabe's Rainy Day Adventures to doing a spiritual path journal for everyone. I've got two different versions. A version that is 222 pages, which has more journaling pages in it, and a smaller version that has less journaling pages, but the rest of the content is the same. The 2023 and 2024 versions have my monthly predictions along with the moon dates and the retrograde dates. It has the angel numbers. It has information about smudging. It has information about grounding. It's got, I think, 32 different of the most popular, most common crystals are in the back. It's got chakra information. There's 7 simple meditations that anybody can do. There are 40 affirmations to get your day started, and every single page has writing prompts or some sort of spiritual message to kind of prompt you into writing and journaling. I feel like I've missed something too. There's probably some more in there that I can't think of right now.
Well, it's great. You guys can get it on Amazon. Go over there, take a look at it, and it's Sacred Steps Journal, Walking a Path of Healing. So you guys need to make sure you check it out. And if you have difficulty finding it, touch us up in group in the Wolf and the Bear Network. Get hold of Holly or get hold of myself, and we'll make sure that you can find it.
Yep.
Cool. Well, I'm excited about that. I had a kind of a crazy morning today. We've actually had military flying over extremely low here on the lake because we're by a base. And something's going on because it's a Wednesday, and that's not normally when they do this stuff. So something's going on. They head out from here to go to like West Virginia, North Carolina, that area. So I don't know what's going on, but they were definitely fighter jets. So that was booming on my house, because what they do is they come across, and they're not supposed to, but they do it every time. They come by, and they probably go about 300-400 feet off the lake, and they just kind of blow. The water's gone, the birds are gone, the house is rattling, and yeah, that was a little crazy. And then, like I started to tell you earlier, I had opened the door, given him his food and all that, went in to take a shower, and when I came out, he was nowhere to be found. And then I started walking into the kitchen, and here he comes waddling after me. So he's been on the floor several times today. So now he's grooming himself with a piece of wood. He chewed off one of his toys. So hopefully he'll be quiet.
Bless him.
He's just, I love him, but the more comfortable he's getting here, the more he feels it's his right to go and do whatever he wants to do. So that's going to change because
he's just wanting to play a little hide and seek today. That's all.
Well, him and Mulan were rolling on the floor too a little while ago, and I was like, "What is that noise?" And he was squeaking, and she's got no claws or anything, and she's just playing with them, and they were rolling on the floor, and I'm like, "Oh my God, stop!" So, Anyway, so reincarnation, let's start with you. What are your takes on reincarnation?
Well, I feel like it's something that I've always believed in, and no one told me about it when I was younger or anything. It's just something that I always felt to be true. It's like in the whole expanse of time, this life that we're living right in this moment is a blink. It is actually probably less than a blink. And so is that your soul's purpose, to live one tiny little speck of time? And then what do you do? Because the soul is eternal. What do you do with all the rest of the time?
Well, it's interesting you use the word time, because I know in the spirit lands, there's no time. Like, it doesn't exist. It's like I can't even explain it. It's like you go into a different, like, people say behind the veil or through the veil or, into the spirit land or whatever, but it's like just into energy. And we continue to learn. I had a laugh because I was watching a clip yesterday on the news about Tina Turner.
Yeah.
And she was in an interview actually with Oprah, and it was a few years ago. But they asked her about, she's this iconic woman. She's, 80 years old at the time. And, what do you think about your life? Are you afraid to die? And she said, no, I'm not really. I'm ready. If I go, I go. That's fine. She says, I'm quite curious about what happens when we go on to the other side. She goes, I mean, like, really, people have come back, but they don't have like a full understanding of it. She says, so I want to go. When it's my time, I'm happy to go. And I thought, yeah, that's really a good way to look at stuff like that. And have you had, she also talked about reincarnation, which is what I found really super fascinating. Have you ever had yourself a glimpse into past lives possible for you?
Oh yeah, totally. God, it was back in the probably early part of 2000s, and I used to go to a shop called Spiral Ladies, and ever so often, once or twice a month, they would have this lady that would come in and do past life regression in a group. So we'd all be laying out in the store after hours with our little pallets, blankets and our pillows and stuff. And the first time I did it, I was like, yeah, well, we're going to see. I was doubtful. I was like, we'll see if I see anything or what's going to happen. It's not a hypnosis. It's just a guided meditation to take you back and remember.
Right.
It was so freaking amazing. She did 3 lives at a time. Well, she would you go into one life, you'd be there, you look around and see who you are, where you are, how old you are. Then it would take you to the most important day of that lifetime.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then it would take you to your death in that lifetime. And then you would go back up and in the in-between, and then she'd take you to the next one. And it was so interesting. I was something, and every time she took us back. And there were other people that maybe they'd go back twice, but not 3 times, or some people would do all 3, or some people had a harder time. If you can't meditate anyway, if you have a really hard time with it, you're probably going to have a hard time doing that. But I have that same meditation on my page, on the website as well, on the Healing Path of the Wolf and Raven page. And it just worked really great. So my husband, he believes in the spiritual world and all that, but he had never done that. And he was extremely skeptical. And so after he came over, I said, let me know when you're ready. If you want to experience that, we'll do it one night. He's like, all right. So when he did it, he was absolutely floored and amazed. I don't think he went back all 3 times. I think he went back twice. And I can't remember what kind of lives he had, but he was blown away.
I look at it as, and I know it's really a practice in many different religions, and I know in India they believe in coming back. And I look back to when I was young, and I've always had this fear of drowning. Matter of fact, it's so bad still. I can't go out on a big body of water like a lake. I can go on a river, right? And people would tell me, that's so stupid. It's still water. Why won't you just go out in the lake? I said, because I can see shore to shore. And I said, I can't. I'm not scared here, but I'm scared on big water. So then I moved forward into life, and I had somebody do a regression with me. And the first one was that I drowned. And it's like, yeah, and it's funny because you pull that forward with you for whatever reason, if it's a fear to get over or what. I then actually, Barb DeLong did a reading because she does past lives. That's her thing that she does. And she did a past life for me. And I just kind of sort of was laughing, but it made sense as well. She said she says, you come through as like Rasputin, who was the monk that off the Tsar and his family, right? He did a lot of stuff. He was a sexually nut job. He was practicing magic, but he was telling them it was magic and it wasn't. Right. He was doing medical things. And actually where the man came from, right, was he was poor and in a village, and his at that time wife threw him out because he was a bum and wasn't worth stuff. And back in those days, the women were kind of in charge. So he was homeless for a long time, and he went to live with some monks. And then he got into where he was down the road. Right. Well, the big thing she kept telling me about, which I found really fascinating, is they kind of cut him up after they killed him. It took him 3 times to kill him. Like, to actually, he survived the poisoning. He survived the drowning, and the gunshots, I guess, got him in the end. But they separated him up, right? Because he was so vile, and people were so scared of him because he was a mystic. And I was like, seriously? She says, yeah, like his bones, right? His bones were separated. And I'm like, okay. And then she talked about how it was manifesting in me. And that was all my bone. All I've ever had, my problems have all been my neck, my hands, my knees,
your back,
your legs. That really made sense. Yep. So I was like, that's really cool. So when I had another opportunity with somebody that didn't know anything about that, he brought those same lives back. When they regressed me again, it was the drowning, it was Rasputin. And I laugh because I always says, yeah, we treated women bad, so that's why he put me back in this life, and you know, I'm gay. So it's like, that's kind of my payback, right? So, but then they took me one step farther, and this was something also that I really didn't realize until this happened, was I was a samurai. Like in Japanese, Orient, everything was Asian, and my tastes, like, I was always drawn to that time in history. Yeah. So it was weird to kind of see that all, and just like, wow, it makes you stop and think, like, 3 different people did it with me, and 3 different people pulled out the same stuff, or that's what they were telling me. Right. That's just crazy.
It is crazy. I had a co-worker who wanted to do it really bad for a long time. And so she'd been wanting a bear tattoo for forever. And she kept talking about it, you know, because Michaela does tattoos. And so she had it all designed and ready to go. But then we did the past life regression before she got the tattoo. And I walked her through 3 different lives. And when we were done, she just sat there, unable to speak for probably about 20 or 30 minutes. She was speechless. And when she finally spoke, she said, F that bear, because one of the lifetimes, the last lifetime that she experienced, she was mauled by a bear. And she was really young, like a teenager, 14 or something like that, and mauled by a bear. So she was like, there will be no bear tattoo for her. No.
So that was bringing the bear. That's what she kept connecting with. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. You hear a lot about it with kids, too. And actually, I did a little bit of research, and what I thought was really funny, not funny, but the School of Medicine for the University of Virginia actually has a research project going on about kids between the ages of 2 to 5, and they start speaking about the memories of life that they weren't even around when it occurred. So it's also showing like it gives them like interest into that era and all that other stuff, and they keep talking about it. And it's when they're like that age, and then they're in there, they want to. It's like that's a crucial timepiece they feel when we need to kind of like accept what's going on so we can process it and let it go.
Yep.
And in 5 cases that I looked at, after it was addressed with the child, it was gone. They couldn't remember that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
And there was actually one kid who had, let me look, I know I had it, hang on. He actually had dreams of a flight pilot in a war, right? And he kept talking all about it with his parents. And they wound up, and it's actually quite a famous case, I guess, and they wound up tracking down this man's family. And he kept saying he had sisters and they didn't know where he was, and they couldn't find him. Like he says, my plane went down, and you know, my sisters have lived all their lives with not knowing, my parents not knowing, and you know, but then he was giving them like intimate details about what kind of plane he was in, how to fly the plane.
They found it, did they not?
Where, yeah, and they found them. They found him in history. Yep. And he said, yeah, that's me. Then they found his family and got hold of them and said, if you don't want to, it would be fine. But, you know, this might help you kind of have some closure on what happened with your brother. Yeah. So they took him to where they were. And like I said, these women were in their late 70s and one was in her early 80s. And when it all was said and done, I mean, he could point things out in the house that there was no way of him knowing. It was in a completely opposite state on the completely other end of the United States. And it was like he identified everything. So he gave them closure. And then once he was finished with it, like within a year, it was gone. And he was just who he was now. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's one of those things, too, that we were talking about last week. It's either faith or it's science.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how to meld them because science has so blocked off to possibilities, I guess I would say.
Yeah. Well, Michael Newton, he is a psychiatrist that did age regression for years and years. And accidentally, some of his clients would go back further than being born.
Yeah, right.
And over the years, when so many of them happened and all the stories of those particular people were so extremely similar, he started doing it on purpose and did a whole study. And you can get his book, Journey of Souls, and Michael Newton. And what I love about the book is it's not his interpretation. It's not him guessing. It's not his opinion about past life regression or reincarnation. He just states the exact conversation that he had with each individual person. And it'll give you peace with moving on to the next life and passing over.
It's interesting that collection of information has been taken. The one where I said at the university, that actually shocked me a bit when I looked into it this past week, because so now they're beginning to accept that it's something they're teaching at colleges. So there's got to be something going on with it, right? And yeah. I just Raymond Moody, Dr. Raymond Moody, he was one of this was back in the 70s because I was in school from 76 to 79 and high school. And his books came out about death and dying, right? And then the later that he progressed in his studies and what he was doing, he too regressed people back to past lives and the possibilities. And this was like early 80s that all this stuff, late 70s that it started coming out. And it always fascinated me. And he was doing, famous people were coming in because he put them in a deprivation tank. And Joan Rivers was actually one that went down and did it. And she was just floored. So there were a lot of people, and he's actually still alive. And he's like, to me, he's like the walking encyclopedia of what if, seriously. Yeah. I just think that it's being validated on many other levels. And I think some of the scientists or not scientists, tech people or whatever that are science-based, right? That this is how this works, is science-based. I think they're getting challenged and they don't like it.
No. Well, I mean, how else does the soul evolve? How is there growth on a soul level if we don't have more than one experience? But that also goes to say that, like I was saying to Ruth the other day on one of the posts where I felt the tide of change coming, where she's saying how she felt broken. It's her soul, her spirit is broken. I'm like, your spirit has lived for a millennial. Your spirit has reincarnated and come back, refreshed and renewed time and time and time again. It is your thinking in this particular life that might be a bit broken, that has you feeling broken.
So is that what we call when people want soul retrievals? Because I've been part of that, and
well, think about all the information, all the things your soul, your spirit already knows how to do. Think about all the other languages it probably knows. Think about all the experiences it's had. Think about all the occupations it's had. And if you can reconnect with those lifetimes, oh my goodness. I mean, it unlocks unlimited possibilities in this life.
Do you find that, as I know I do at times, do you find that you just know things and you don't know how you know them?
Oh, yeah, all the time. I tell you, one of the weirdest past life experiences I had under the guided meditation was one time. I remember it so distinctly because it was weird. And I was laying there thinking, what did I eat before I came here? What is going on? This is not like the rest. So you go down inside this tree and going down your different levels of consciousness, to get to that lifetime. And there's like little creatures like fairies and gnomes and stuff following me down the stairs. I'm like, oh, I'm working with the fairies. Then you open the door to that life. No, I was a fairy, which makes sense. And then
absolutely.
The weird feeling about that one was I had a job to do as a fairy. I brought life to nature, to things. And I had to be disconnected from my emotions because I couldn't choose what to give life and what not to. That was not part of my job. Right. So that non-emotional feeling, that disconnect between things was an odd feeling. And at the end of that lifetime, at my death, I was going up toward the light and I wilted like a freaking flower. But then I wasn't ready to go on back to the spirit world. I jumped into a crystal and stayed there for God knows how long.
Yeah, no time.
Yeah.
That's really, really, really interesting. Well, I used to get thrown out. Maybe that's why we do what we do now, like because of all of this. But when I look back to school, like in high school especially, I was at a point where I was challenging things that were brought up about history or even with religion, I mean, I would always go goodbye out to the hallway, and I'd be out there, and a couple of teachers would walk by again, and like, well, you know, they go, why don't you just shut your mouth? And I go, because I don't believe what they're saying.
Right.
And one of it took me back to the time of Christ, and I would follow him. I was following him and his people, right? Because he had like a teaching thing, and I know this will probably throw everybody's panties in a wad, but what I always kept seeing was, and this was my biggest thing I got in trouble for, but not with the principal, which was really funny because she was a nun. I adored her, but the teacher was a deacon. He was studying to be a priest. I was in an all-Catholic high school, right? And he made a comment about Mary Magdalene being a prostitute. And I said, that's not true. Mm-hmm. I didn't even plan that. It just kind of came out. And he looked at me, and, you know, he was in his 30s. I was like 18. And he says, what do you mean? I said, who says she's a prostitute? The church and everybody that's manipulated the Bible to say what they want people to believe so they'll follow him, or follow the Christian religion. He looked at me. He said, out. I said, but you got to listen. I says, and you know what? I said, she was not a prostitute. And at one point, she was married to Jesus. And that's it. Out, 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 out. And I went out. But this came up multiple times throughout my life with different people. And I know it was true. I can't tell you how, but I know how it was true. So I just wonder if all of that when we come and, like, I look at you, you're like an old soul, right? That's what we call people. Or you're a newbie. You're definitely a new soul. And they are. You can tell a difference with people. Mm-hmm. And it's like when you say, yeah, you're an old soul, it's because you kind of recognize certain things, I believe, in our past lives that are valuable that we bring forward with us to this point.
It's just the knowledge, and it's like you don't even know what you know until suddenly you're doing something. You're like, how did I even know to do that? When you've never read it, you've never been told, right. You've never seen it anywhere, but suddenly you find yourself doing something very particular that's like, where's that coming from? Because your soul, your spirit has already done it. It has that knowledge. It has that information. You just haven't tapped into everything that your spirit, your soul already knows.
So looking at it that way kind of makes sense to me. I don't know if everybody listening, if you've got some questions or experiences where you felt past lives, just put it in the chat here and we'll talk about it with you. I just kind of, you're right. It's like you look at things like, oh, that's not how it is, or that's not how it was, or right. You do things. Hi, Tammy, how are you? You do things, and like you said, it's like secondhand, and it's like, I remember Taylor saying one time, how do you know this? How do you know this? I don't even remember what we
were. No, I just know.
Yeah, and I'm like, do what? And she said that. I go, oh, I don't know. Just, I know. And you can't pinpoint it. But so then that again, like I said, brings up science-based too. I don't even know if it's faith that gives it to us. I think it's a different word, maybe. Science against what? Because there's so much proof into, especially with the kids that come back and they relive stuff. I mean, how do they is that science? Is that experimental? Is it what? How would we even?
How do you explain, or how do you put a label on? Now, I think that's where we're having a problem, is trying to label something that cannot be labeled, because it's beyond our earthly, what's the word I'm looking for?
Knowledge or earthly knowledge.
We wouldn't be able to understand it. We just couldn't. It doesn't compute in our brains because it's way beyond this.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting because even when we're here, and I know you've done this as well, we kind of go through not I should say we do more than one, but it's growth spurts, but it's with the, some people call it the knowing or abilities because we're human, but it's almost like we get pushed up into a different place. So we're open to more things and we see more things. And that's what I have thought about what happened to me 3 weeks ago. And I've had 2 different responses, like I told you, of what came to visit were healers. And I also had another person who saw the renderings that you did and said, those are what the archangels show themselves to me as. And I would never know that because I never had a picture of them. And I will also tell you, because this is, this can't be explained by science either.
I just saw something go past your window. Outside. It was.
I don't know.
Yep.
But I have come to the realization that, and like I said, the young man that I talked to, he died a while back and came back. And so he's all connected to that divine energy. So it's like, I think why they looked at me funny was because I wasn't supposed to be able to see them.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they went, oh, she could see us. It's probably not good, while I was screaming at them. But this is all in that same kind of thing. You have to have, again, I don't like to use the word faith, but everything happens for a reason, right? So like when we come in and we're an old soul, and you can definitely tell when somebody hasn't been around a long time, because they're kind of like teenagers.
Yeah. Their spirit, their energy is like teenage energy rather than old energy. I mean, I remember when I was a little kid on the playground, all the kids would come to me and ask me things, and I'd be looking at them like, why do you think I know? Why are you coming to me? But they would just gravitate toward me at a very young age where, they saw something that I wasn't seeing.
And I think that happens with a lot of people. I think that happens with a lot of people, especially people that are open to possibilities. I think probably from an early age, people would find you. Is she here? Yeah. Well, there she is. There she is. So yeah, it's just kind of mind-boggling when you just sit, and that's another thing too. I've told people quite recently, actually, when they question, like, did that really did it happen to me? It's like, don't question it. Just take it as what you saw or what you heard or what you felt. Because right now, because of what happened with me, they're trying to make me forget. And I actually brought this up to a friend of mine.
That's not going to happen.
I said, they got another thing coming, but I feel like somebody's trying to, and I know that sounds tinfoil hat, whatever, but I keep seeing them try to let me forget, kind of like, and this is how my friend described it. She says, it's kind of but like Men in Black. She says, they come up and they have this thing and they go like this and they buzz it and it wipes away the memory of it. I says, that's what I keep feeling like they're trying to, but I'm not going to. And it's like, but they keep trying. And I can't explain that either. I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot to kind of take in. And, and I'm sure there's people that are going to listen to this or are listening to it now, where they've had a point in their life where they didn't know why they knew that. And I just think that's fascinating. I just think it's fascinating.
It is. It's pretty amazing. I remember there was this one lady in I think it was, one of the sessions. She's terrified in this lifetime of heights, so terrified that she would not even stand on her bed. Now her bed, good Lord, if you fall, you're falling on your bed. She wouldn't even stand on her bed. And she recalled that past life. She had died in a plane crash. Well, yeah, that would do it, wouldn't it?
Ooh.
But the thing is, after will you be able to overcome that fear or not?
I haven't. with water. I still have fear of drowning in water. I live on.
Have you experienced the life where you maybe drowned or whatever happened on the water to cause?
I was in a boat. The boat capsized, and I went down with the boat.
Yeah, you're still like, nope.
It was a big boat, so it was like, I don't know if it was a warship. I don't know, but it was a big boat, and nope.
I have an anxiety with water. If I can't see through it, I am not getting in it. I will like have a heart. I will like freak out completely if I'm in water where I can't see through it.
Yeah, I've been taken out on the ice. When I first got married, my husband drove out on the ice in the bay here in the big Lake Huron. And I was like, why do I hear those noises? Because I didn't realize he had gotten off the road because the roads go around by the point. He said, oh, we're out in the ice. We're going to go see Dad. And I'm like, his dad, because his dad was out ice fishing. And, okay, you need to get off the ice right now. And he's like, why? It's safe. I go, get off I was hyperventilating. You need to get off the ice. And it was the ice and the water and the sound of it cracking, and it made me nuts. I got so angry because he wouldn't. I said, stop the truck. And he's like, what? So he stopped. I jumped out and I went back. I said, when you're ready to pick me up, I'll be walking back to the house, because I wouldn't get on that. And, so yeah, I know I had that because I was shown that, but it doesn't mean I got over the fear of it.
No. Sometimes it's so tragic that there's just, it's not happening.
Let's see what Tammy says. My grandma came to me in a dream trying to hand me a baby dress. I kept telling her, no, I don't need the baby dress. I need the older clothes. Then I found out I was going to have a baby girl. Hey, when they want you to know, they want you to know. Yep. They definitely come through. And there's no explanation. And I other than the obvious, but people, I think they're more apt to say it now out loud than they were like when I was growing up, or probably even when you were growing up.
Yeah, no, nobody was saying anything out loud about any of this stuff back then.
And I feel that that's a good thing, because I think so many, especially like we were talking about last week with kids, I think there's so many people that have the ability to pick up, not the same way, because everybody does it differently, but society needs to stop saying this stuff isn't legit. I mean, it's just too much to not be, if that makes sense.
Right.
It's just too much. So
just looking back at Michael Newton's all of his different encounters with different people that he took back, they were coming from all different walks of life, all kinds of different people, and all their stories all line up to be so extremely similar. How is that like a conspiracy? How do you prove it wrong?
Well, I think there's a world of tech and science and mathematicians that like see things one way. And then I think there's the people that are more open to stuff that say, well, okay, you want me to prove it, but I look at them and say, try to disprove it. Right. And so far, no one's been able to disprove these cases that have come up. And I just, to me, that's proof, right? I mean, that's kind of proof. You can't prove that they're not. I'm not saying what we're seeing is going on. So how do you explain that through science? And I just don't think they can. I just don't think they can.
Well, I have another theory as well. I believe that a lot of the scientists, I think they already know all these things to be true, but they don't. It's not knowledge. They're not going to send it out there like this is the truth. This is what is absolutely real for their own reasons we won't get into today, because, everybody considers that conspiracy, but whatever.
Well, look at it though, from like how much they've even opened up about alien spacecraft, right? Yeah. Maybe they're not alien, but they can't tell you what they are. So they are actually now saying,
they could tell you what they are. They're just not telling us what they are.
But I think they've also been connected with them long before people
Way
were.
before.
Yeah, and I think that I do believe, and I know that
I
sounds
feel like it's from the beginning, to be honest.
Yeah,
I don't think this is
I
anything
think it's
new.
like foil tin hats you can say, but there's just too much. I was actually watching, and I love it, the Skinwalker Ranch yesterday, and some of the things that are going on out there, they're just pushing the limit, pushing the limit, pushing the limit, and they found some kind of metallic spaceship type component that can only be made in a lab, right? But they found it underground in this mesa on this thing that they can't get to because every time they try, the stuff breaks or whatever. So I'm like, yeah, all this stuff goes back to earlier than us here. And that's why I also believe that with the reincarnation thing, I think there's more to it. And people just need to either be open to it or I guess or not. But I would like to say society's a little bit better than not right now. All right. So I have a little surprise.
Uh-oh.
Well, you know, they don't all know who we were back in the day when we did radio.
Yep.
And there were 3 of us. And Christy Sargent, who I love and I give grief to every opportunity I get, was always one of those people that did not want to be heard or seen on the radio. And it's like it's radio. They can't see you. They can only hear you. So she'd bring her brown paper bag every week. And this is our sister, Christy Sargent, and I'm going to actually give her a call right now because she wrote something on my page the other day. So I'm going to see if I can't get her in. She'll probably hang up on me, right? Yep, she'll probably hang up on me. Oh, it's not ringing. So there we go.
Christina, I'm unavailable right now. Please enter your password.
I'm Christina. I'm unavailable at this time. Well,
she's available.
I know she's available. She just doesn't want to say it. So yeah, that's our beautiful sister, and we'll get her on here eventually, one way or the other. Mm-hmm. So I'll try to talk her into it.
Maybe we need to go on a road trip.
Yeah. Yeah, go down and get her butt. Yeah, that would be funny. But well, next time I'll try again. I was hoping you guys would get to see or at least hear our sister talk a little bit. But yeah, so I don't know. We're talking past lives here, and if you all, I'm not even looking at the comments. I'm sorry. Let me pull those back up.
Shows pretty much.
Oh yeah, look, see, she knows. Haha, good luck on that. So she knew I was calling her. So yeah, it didn't work right. So yeah, so what about your kids?
My kids, they don't really deal with the past life stuff. They don't really. They are all spiritual, but they are kind of shying away from. They don't want to be like me. Leo and Gabriel is a whole nother story. That's a whole other ball of wax right there. Especially Leo, he's like a little mini me, and he comes up with all kinds of stuff. One day we're just riding in the car heading home, and he's talking about when he died, before he came into this particular life. He was in his 20s, and he died. He was cutting down a tree, and it fell on him.
Ooh.
He was very specific. There was a whole bunch of other details that I don't remember at the moment. I wrote it all down, but yeah, there were a lot of details. There's one I have. It's not a video. It's video, but it's his his voice telling me this story. I had good sense enough early in the story to hit record and record what he was saying. But he's talking about when we first came here, like first life.
Right.
And that was pretty amazing. I'd have to dig it up on my page. I just now remembered it. But that's him talking and telling what he saw when we first came here. And he's talking about people had different jobs. There were people that were just builders that went out and they built homes for people. They built the buildings that needed to be in place. and everybody had their own little area of expertise that they were in.
Well, look at how they're finding, and this is interesting as well with the past life thing. You know, scientists and archaeologists and all, they have this timeline, and you know, they go back and forth with the Darwin thing about coming from man, you know, the apes and going into man and all that stuff. And then they're finding places that have never been found before, and finding items that predate like even Egyptian pyramids, right?
Yep.
Down by Egypt is the Kush, the people of the Kush. And they actually went in and proved, because they found a tomb that was underwater, under not as precise as the pyramids in Egypt, but they were still built with blocks, and this elaborate like burial site underneath this, which, like I said, was at this time it's underwater because it's near the Nile. But they're finding that, you know, it predates Egypt by like 1,200 years.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, because I've always had that fascination with the Egyptian time period, but it more registers with, that's why I could never balance it, because it measures more about the people of Kush.
Right.
And it, to me, it's like, okay, so are we living parallel lives? Like, could we be like me? Could I be a samurai and I'm doing it at the same time I'm doing this? What do you think of that?
If we think about it in spirit form, we are energy in it, and we ourselves are able to travel the web in different directions all at the same time and be in multiple places at once. So it is a human physical thing that we feel like we are just simply trapped in this body. But if you've ever done astral projection, you know that you can go outside of your body and go to other places. So why not?
I believe in that 100%. I even believe in dream walking, which is when our soul slips from our human form while we're in that deep sleep, and we can go like astral projecting to different places. I can't explain how that happens other than, like you were saying, I think a lot of stuff happened before science came in. I believe, yeah, it could have been, I mean, we're kind of ignorant to say that we're the only ones in the universe anyway. So, but with all the stuff you see, the petroglyphs, the stuff in the tombs, the stuff in the caves, it all talks to people before people, that there was somebody that had that kind of power. So I look at that, and it's kind of trippy, because it's like, is it a black hole? Is it a parallel? So we can
energy. It's simply energy. Just think about what we're doing right here, right now. I'm in Tennessee. You're in Michigan. We're speaking at the same time together because of energy that is being exchanged through the air and going to different places all at once. And there are people all over the world that are sitting and watching us in real time right here, right now. So how does that happen? So if we forget the physical shell and understand that your soul is energy. It is that energy. It has the ability to go and be in multiple places at once.
That makes sense. I mean, yeah, it makes sense.
It's just the physical mind, it has a hard time wrapping itself around that concept, that idea.
Well, you know, I look at, I was talking about this with somebody last week, because they lost their dog they've had for 16 years. And I said, you know what? I know exactly what you're going through. I had my Boone, my Australian cattle dog, for 19 years. He was my dog. Like, he went everywhere with me. He died of old age, and he died in my arms. But because I had so much going on since 2019, just after he passed, to present time, he shows up. Like, I heard his nails clicking on the hard floor.
Yep.
And I thought, what was that? And I laid back down, and next thing I knew, I felt up on the bed. The bed gave way, like when he would jump up, and stretched his back to my back, and I was like, okay, do I look? And I thought, no, it's just really calm. It was, and I rolled over, and when I could see him, it went away. So I believe that anything would, I think animals still have energy. They're still
They do.
soul energy, and I don't know.
Well, so you sensed it to begin with.
Your bird.
You sensed it to begin with your energetic energy, with your energy. You sensed it with those senses, without the physical eyes of seeing. All right. And then when you switched over to your eyes, you didn't see anything. Do you see the sound waves right now going back and forth between? No, you don't see those. You can't see them, but you can hear them.
Oh yeah, 100%.
We know they're there.
You can definitely feel them. You can definitely see them. I think it was last week I put a picture up of my little bug. Her name was Freckles, and we lost her the year after I lost Boone. And she died in my arms. David and Taylor were here with me, and it was very unexpected. She's like, what's going on? And I held her while she passed. And I saw her like come in and focus, and I was like, oh my God. Freckles, and it was like she just sat there, but there was an impression on the bed where she had been sitting, and she wasn't as solid as Boone, but she was still there. So I kind of go like with that too. So they're like going in between and what have you, and that's why I think like past lives. I do believe that our animals as well kind of show up in our soul families.
Yeah,
and people will say, well, that's just crazy. Dogs don't have souls. Yeah, they do. So do cats.
Yes, they do. Plants even have souls.
Yeah, energy. They have energy, right?
Yeah. They do.
Okay. Well.
Look, we have 11 views and 11 likes and hearts. 11.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Make your wishes, folks.
Yeah. Make a wish, right? 1111. So next week, what do we want to delve into next week?
Ooh, anybody have any suggestions?
Yeah, you guys write in if you.
We want to talk about the angel numbers next week, maybe.
Oh, we could do that. Angel numbers and
Do you remember that day I was leaving work? And I called you because I was like, what is going on? I saw 111, 222, 333, 444, 555 on my way home from work. Like they were back to back. And I was like, something's going on. Something's going down.
I think that would be a fun topic for us next week. And I also would like to add, what is this? Can you past lives with us on appointment? Oh, here you go, Holly.
Okay, so yes, and I find that one difficult to do if you're not in person with somebody, because you don't. I would not have control over what past life, and you don't have control over what past life you visit. There can be a lot of trauma experienced in that past life, and you may need to come out of that life sooner. And if someone isn't physically there with you during that time, it could be very just difficult to deal with.
That's one of the reasons that I don't like to channel that, because when things got nuts, like in 2006 and 7, I was able to channel, and a lot of times I would literally leave my body and go and play in pink light and everything, and I didn't know anything that was going on, but I always had to have somebody with me. And they said, why? I said, because when you're doing past life channels and the other person is getting what they're supposed to be getting, your client, I need someone that's going to be there to tap me out. And you need to be tapped out physically, like Holly's saying, if there's stuff that maybe doesn't go right, or maybe stuff is too traumatic, or maybe you can go so darn deep that you can't get back unless someone taps you out. Because it's like, I always say, it's like the Michael Jackson glove, right? You put your hand, and it's not fitting to get back in because you're experiencing other things. And I remember when I actually that was the last time I did it. I had a client that wanted me to channel, and I did. It took them 25 minutes to get me out of it. I was hypothermic. Because I was literally kind of in that dead zone where you're not here, you're not there, but all of a sudden you're awake,
Yeah.
And it took probably a good hour and a half to get everything back with
That's
me.
like Jenny with the whole bear thing. She was so traumatized. It took her easily 30 minutes before she could even open her mouth and speak to me. Tears rolling down her face, and she just could not even speak. She just laid there, but I was with her. I was watching her, making sure that she was okay. And still, she had to finally talk about it, and we were together for a good long while before she could even walk out of the house.
Oh yeah, and I think that's a preconceived notion. People think it's really something easy because I think a lot of people, yeah. Well, and again, I look at how you do things, how I do things. That's not always the case with some people. I think that we are in a tight circle of practitioners that are very good and they're responsible and they have integrity. But there are a lot of people out there that, $500 for 15 minutes or $500 for a half. It's like, I mean, I expect to be compensated in some way, but I actually had somebody, I think I said that last week, somebody had asked a question in one of the groups that I'm in, like, I want to talk to my mom and dad to know if they're good. I need to get a medium that's good. It's like, it's not like a telephone. You don't just dial up. So yeah.
We're never going to tell you that they're not good on the other side. On the other side, they're fabulous. They're living their best life. They're good.
Yeah. But they will come back and bug you. They will come back and bug you because I had
Ruth has got a good one.
Okay, I and like I said, the wolf passed away. It was 3 years over the weekend, and before I even realized like the date, obviously I don't forget it, but I kept getting all these things, and it was funny things that I would connect with her daughters with, right? And one of them was like Bloody Mary Monday, right? And in the summertime, and she'd be like, come on, you're gonna make them, and we're gonna go out and bathe in the sun. And it's like, you're gonna what? Yeah, Bloody Mary Monday. I had totally forgotten about that. She's been gone for 3 years, and I haven't done that with the kids probably for 5 years. And so I got a hold of the one daughter, and she's like, oh my God. She goes, oh my God, that's so funny. I said, yeah, and I'm actually craving a Bloody Mary right now. So, and I don't even drink. So it was like funny. All right. So what does Ruth have to say here?
She wants to know how to remove toxic people from your life without feeling guilty about removing them. Oh, yeah.
We could do that.
We could totally talk about that. I don't know if we could make it last for a whole hour, but that's definitely, I talk about it quite a bit on all my other channels.
Well, let's do it. I think that's a good idea. We can do that and bring in the divine numbers. So half the show, and then we always find a way to intertwine it. I think that's really, really good. It's a thing that, hi Simon. I think
a lot of people struggle.
Yeah, especially now after the pandemic. I kind of look at the pandemic as it was a necessary evil to get people reset to what's supposed to be important. Unfortunately, it's also unleashed some stuff that isn't great, but I feel that it put us in a better place to understand people that we thought were close that maybe aren't close. Or, just the chaos that's out there and trying to keep that energy level away from us. So, Ruthie, we'll do you next week on Wednesday. How's that?
Yeah.
So that'll be really good. So
we'll talk about removing toxic people and the angel numbers.
Yep. Angel numbers. I've got so much energy right now up on my windowsill in front of me because I got green amethyst, which I used to always use with clients that would come into my studio and I would work with them. And they're very difficult to find. So I actually had Carrie Greenaway, who's a good friend of mine. I sent her out on a mission. So I have what I have left, because I usually clients get them for whatever reason. I have 20 of them right now sitting up, and I can't even begin to tell you the energy that they're pulling in right now. And I put them out the night of the strawberry moon.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. So yeah, we'll talk about that and how to get rid of that energy and, you know, the bad energy and not feel guilty about that. I think that's a big part because we were always told to take care of everybody no matter what. And so that'll be an interesting conversation we'll have. And I just want to make sure everybody, hang on, remembers the book. And it's up on Amazon.
3 different versions. Well, there's 6 versions there, but there's 2 versions of each book. There's the 2023, 2024, and this one that doesn't have predictions in it. The long version and the short version of each of those 3.
Okay, guys, you got it. And that's where you can get it, is up on Amazon. Good book. Make sure you touch base with it. And I guess that's all for this time. You can get hold of us. You know how to get hold of all of us. So do that if you need us. Drop us a line. Happy to help. Happy to talk with you. And until next week, bear out and
have a good one, everyone.
Love you guys.